Welcome back to New Jersey Power and Politics. I'm Katie Kairos. The state's campaign finance watchdog is the Election Law Enforcement Commission. It oversees all political contributions at the state and local level, enforcing pay-to-play and disclosure laws in New Jersey. But ELEC doesn't have the teeth to do its job at the moment because 3 out of 4 seats on the board remain vacant. Jeff Brindle, Executive Director of the Election Law Enforcement Commission, also known as ELEC, is my next guest. Welcome to the show, Jeff.
Thank you for being here.
So the status right now, I guess you have a lot of work going on, but the board hasn't been able to meet in months because of these vacancies. In whose role do you think that is mostly? Is it more the governor or Democrats? Do you think they both share the blame for the fact that it's not?
Yes, I mean, basically the governor nominates candidates to be on the commission, and the Senate then confirms. So, both have a role in nominating people to our commission.
Is that problematic that the politicians that ELEC is overseeing are in charge of filling those positions?
Not really. I mean, we've been in existence since 1973, and it's really never been a problem. It's really worked very well. And there's never been any interference. We're by statute an independent agency, and there's never been any interference by, either the legislature or the governor, any governor, in terms of our operations. So it's not a problem.
So it's not kind of maybe a form of passive interference, the fact that they're not being filled, though?
Well, I think that, there's been a lot of issues, particularly with the funding the Transportation Trust Fund and the budget process. And I think, it's just a matter of the governor and the legislature getting around to, filling the seats on the commission. And, I know that they're working on it. We have been in contact with the governor's office as well as Senator Sweeney's office in terms of filling the positions.
And so even without the monthly meetings, even without those positions filled, there's a lot of work going on. What's happening behind the scenes right now? We're coming up on the November election. I'm sure it's a big time. Well,
we're still continuing as a staff to function every day on a day-to-day basis, doing the work. Investigations are still going on with regard to any complaints that have come into us or anything that, any of our audits. We're still auditing reports and so forth. We're still doing seminars and training sessions for candidates and lobbyists and business people in terms of the pay-to-play law, PACs and political parties. We're still doing analytical reports, citing the different trends in campaign financing and lobbying. And we're in the process of upgrading our computer system. So there's a lot of activity, at the commission.
You mentioned training. What are you training them for?
Well, we have candidates and treasurers that come into our seminars so that we teach them how to file their reports and to make sure that we get good compliance. Lobbyists, that come in, and we do the same thing with regard to the lobbying law and their responsibilities under it in terms of disclosure. Same thing with the pay-to-play law with business. So with all of those communities out there that we serve, we provide that kind of compliance information.
I know there's a lot of money flying around right now about the North Jersey casino amendment that's going to be going on the ballot in November. What are you seeing with that? Are there concerns about the super PACs?
Well, yeah, this is an issue that I've been talking about for probably 5 years now. That there's a lot of independent spending. Both this year, it's going to be on the ballot question, particularly the casino question. I'm estimating that there'll probably be about $40 million or more that'll be spent pro and con that ballot question. And the issue there really is that there's no disclosure in most instances, from these independent groups. And what we've been doing is, calling for the legislature to reform the law to provide that these groups have to register and that they have to disclose their contributions and their expenditures, just like political parties and just like candidates have to. So that has been a concern of ours, and it's going to be a lot of spending on their part this year.
Do we have some idea of who these groups are that are spending the money, though? the independent groups?
Well, that's one of the problems. I mean,
really
you have fancy names that these groups come up with, and we don't really know who's behind them in many instances. And that certainly is in the public interest for this kind of disclosure, for the public to know, if you're going to have an informed electorate, for them to know who is funding these groups and how much they're spending.
So, but coming up on November, do you think there's going to be time to actually introduce that change to the legislation, or do you think we're kind of going to hit the ballot in November? It's going to be a lot of stuff going on, in ads and all that, and then voters are just going to take a smack
Well,
at it.
right now, both Minority Leader Bramnick and Democratic Assemblyman Singleton have introduced legislation that would require disclosure. We worked very closely with them, with both sides, to get this legislation. Whether or not they're going to be able to, it's been introduced, but whether or not the legislature will pass it by this election day, I doubt it. But certainly I'm cautiously optimistic that something's going to be done for the future.
All right, Jeff, thank you so much for taking the time to be here.
Thank you. It was my pleasure.
Please stay with us. Greg Lalevee of the International Union of Operating Engineers is standing by. There's more to come on New Jersey Power and Politics.